Rex Heuermann is a New York architect who was arrested in July 2023 in connection with the Gilgo Beach murders, a series of killings that occurred on Long Island, New York. He was charged with multiple counts of first-degree and second-degree murder for the deaths of 3 women whose bodies were found near Gilgo Beach in 2010. Heuermann's arrest came after years of investigation, during which he was identified through DNA evidence and cell phone records. Gilgo Beach serial killings suspect Rex Heuermann now faces charges in the deaths of 6 women spanning 3 decades and multiple Long Island communities after he was indicted on 2 new murder charges Thursday. The latest development in an investigation authorities in New York say is far from over. Heuermann pleaded not guilty to charges of second-degree murder in the 2003 death of Jessica Taylor and the 1993 death of Sandra Costilla. The 60-year-old architect was taken by surprise by Thursday's charges, and he is in a bad place in terms of the new charges, his attorney Michael Brown said after his client appeared in an eastern Long Island courtroom. Heuermann was remanded without bail and is expected in court July 30th. One murder is obviously horrific, and it's a difficult thing to defend, Brown said. And now we're at 6, Brown said. Gasps were heard in the courtroom as Suffolk County Prosecutor Nicholas Santomartino described the disturbing content he said authorities discovered on Heuermann's devices, including a planning document outlining a strategy for future killings.
We were able to seize that Chevy Avalanche pursuant to a search warrant, and we're certainly going to analyze that.
A Word document Heuermann allegedly created on a laptop in 2000 and modified over several years outlines how to dispose of a body, avoid apprehension, and not leave DNA evidence, along with what supplies may be needed to carry out serial murder, according to the bail application. A section called Body Prep detailed steps to clean, dismember, and transport bodies, while a post-event section of the document appeared to be a checklist of tasks to avoid apprehension, including having a story set, according to the bail application. This was a planning document used by Heuermann to methodically blueprint and plan out his kills with excruciating detail. His intent was specifically to locate these victims, hunt them down to bring them under his control, and to kill them, Suffolk County District Attorney Raymond Tierney said in a news conference after the court appearance. Other evidence revealed Heuermann's significant collection of violent, bondage, and torture pornography, currently dating back to 1994. The bail application reads, Taylor was a sex worker in Midtown Manhattan, in the same area where Heuermann worked, and records showed Heuermann was in Midtown the day Taylor disappeared, according to court documents. Taylor was decapitated and her arms were severed from her torso, officials said. Some of Taylor's remains were found in 2003, but her head, hands, and forearm were not located until March 2011, when they were discovered on the same side of the road from where 4 of Heuermann's other alleged victims had been found just months earlier in December 2010, according to court documents. Investigators linked Heuermann to Taylor's death in part through DNA from hair recovered from a surgical drape that had been underneath her body, according to a newly unsealed court document. Investigators also said phone records established that Heuermann's wife and children were out of town when Taylor was killed, which would have allowed defendant Heuermann unfettered time to execute his plans for Miss Taylor, which included the decapitation, dismemberment, and transportation of her remains, without any fear that his family would uncover or learn of his involvement in these crimes, court documents said. Prosecutors also noted that Heuermann accessed a Newsday article entitled, Cops Seek Help in Hiding Manorville Body, regarding the discovery of Ms. Taylor's human remains, court documents said. DNA also linked Heuermann to 28-year-old Costilla, whose body was found in a wooded area in North Sea, Long Island. In November 1993, prosecutors said. She was found on her back, with 25 sharp force injuries believed to have been imposed post-mortem, Tierney said. Forensic testing performed on strands of hair found on or near both Taylor and Costilla's remains found that the 99.96% of the North American population could be excluded as the source of the hairs, but Heuermann could not. Pornographic images accessed by Heuermann notably and largely coincide with how the remains of Taylor and Costilla were found, according to court documents. The bail application highlights that 2 different forensic laboratories determined hairs recovered on 5 of the 6 charged victims were tied to Heuermann, members of his immediate family, or to people he lived with, according to the document. Defendant Heuermann is the individual who murdered, stripped, restrained, and transported the remains of Jessica Taylor and Sandra Costilla, as well as the Gilgo Four, until they were each discovered in 1993, 2003, 2010, and 2011. The bail application reads, the women were among at least 11 sets of remains discovered near the waterfront in Long Island, Suffolk County since 2010. Heuermann was arrested in July and initially charged with murdering 3 escorts, Megan Waterman, Amber Costello, and Melissa Barthélemy. He was charged in January with the murder of a 4th escort, Maureen Brainerd Barnes.
Smart and very creative.
She liked being a mom?
She loved being a mom.
The remains of all 4 women were found in 2010 in desolate spots along the ocean near Gilgo Beach. 6 additional sets of remains were also found in the area. Heuermann had previously pleaded not guilty to the 4 murders. The case, known as the Long Island serial killer case, had gone unsolved for over a decade, and Heuermann's arrest was a significant development in the investigation. He has pleaded not guilty to the charges. The case is ongoing, and further legal proceedings will determine his involvement in the murders.